What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This video is going to cover in depth the arrest of Good Citizen News that happened early Sunday morning, May the 7th, 2023 in Galveston, Texas. Now, to fully understand why Gardner made this bogus arrest, we need to go back about a week before to April 29th when we were filming a traffic stop, and Gardner started trying to boss Good Citizen News around. He was standing on the side of the road on a public right-of-way, and Good Citizen just flat out told him, "No, I'm not moving, put up crime scene tape." And he got butthurt and stomped and threw a fit and tried to get his sergeants and the other cops there on the scene to help him to arrest Good Citizen. And they all told him, "No, you're out of line, leave him alone." And even the sergeant told him to get in his car and leave. And you could tell that he stomped out of there like a butthurt little crybaby. And I'm going to show you that footage.
Sir, you're literally standing in the middle of the interview scene. You mind going back over there by that police car right
Put
there?
up tape.
Stand over there.
You're gonna put up tape?
There's a car right there. Stand over there.
Are you gonna put up tape?
I won't ask you again. This is an active.
Are you gonna put up tape?
Stand in the middle of the scene. No, I mean,
This cop's butthurt that I won't move because there's no tape up. Yeah, Gardner needs to learn his place.
no, I don't, sir. I didn't know the law.
Yeah, you do.
No.
Put up tape next time before you want to buck up against me, boy.
Call me boy.
Yeah, I called you boy. Learn your place. Learn what happens to Caldwell. You see what happened to Caldwell? Yeah, your place is underneath my boot, boy.
Now here's my footage of where Good Citizen News was standing. As you can see, he's not interfering. He's on a public right-of-way. He's not bothering anybody. He's just standing there recording, and Gardner starts barking orders at him. Now, I understand that Good Citizen might have said some things that might have upset Gardner or made him feel a certain way, but that's free speech under the First Amendment, and it's not a crime. And for Gardner to use this as retaliation a week later to arrest him for not moving when he's standing 20 feet away is just ridiculous. Anyways, let's get to that. I'm going to call Miguez here shortly, and I already have video recorded phone conversations of Miguez admitting to me that speech is not interference from over a month ago. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
Hey man, you ain't got to answer none of them questions, dude. Ask for your lawyer, man.
If you want to keep interjecting,
I'm not interjecting, man. You keep your mouth shut. I'm not interjecting. Speaking is not interference, man. Subsection D of the Penal Code. Texas Penal Code 38.15, subsection D. Talking is not interference. Or what? Put it up. You're making a big mistake, Gardner. You just fucked up, Gardner. I'm calling Miguez right now. Hey, Gardner, you're going to be with Caldwell next week. She's live.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You just fucked up, Gardner.
Speaking is not interference.
He just fucked up.
Hey, you fucked up big time.
Hey, I'll be down there. I'll get you out.
Call
yelling at an officer while he's conducting a separate investigation is absolutely.
That is not interference. Speech
Not interference,
You get
dude.
that? Speech is not interference.
Yeah, he said he just admitted
He
speech.
just admitted speech is interference.
Man, That guy's
What a
very
dumb
dumb.
piece of shit. You're a dumb motherfucker.
It's free speech, bro. You're gonna be
Free
sitting
speech.
on the
Log
couch
into
with
it right now.
Caldwell next week.
Yep.
Loser. He's just mad because you made a video that made him look stupid. Which one is it? Staying by the gas pump or talking? Which one did he do wrong? This is a public sidewalk, man. I'm standing on a public sidewalk.
Here's the phone conversation I had with Captain Miguez. I'm going to fast forward through the small talk. Hello?
Morning, how you doing today?
Hey, what's going on? Sorry,
Nothing much.
I didn't mean to call you FaceTime. I'm not used to this new iPhone. I just bought it. I was more concerned about this arrest with Austin, man, and I wanted to talk to you because I haven't, you know, a few people have told me that they've talked to you already, and I've heard a couple of different scenarios of what was said, but I haven't actually heard the conversation, so I wanted to talk to you personally. I mean, I've heard that you said it was a good arrest, and then I've heard that the person you were on the phone with talked so damn much that they never let you even explain what you thought. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know which one to believe, and I'm not going to mention any names.
Yeah, I'll keep names out of it. So in that particular case, the person I was on the phone with was a little upset about. They felt that I'd lied to them regarding one of the stops.
Yeah.
And what had happened was, and when I made that initial phone call and we initially talked, I was like, look, I haven't seen the body cam footage. I don't know for sure, but I assume that it's this stop. And what happened was that night we also had a felony DWI stop where somebody hit somebody in a crosswalk.
Yeah.
And so based off of the call log on my phone and the 14 or so missed calls that I had,
Yeah.
and that last one being around the time that incident occurred, I assumed it was that particular stop. And it was still a DWI stop. I just had my stops mixed up.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
And I tried to explain that, like, I'm not, I got nothing to hide, dude. They're like multiple stops a night. I'm not there. This all occurred while I was in bed, and I haven't had a chance to look at anything. I'm calling you back early as a courtesy.
Yeah.
So, things don't sit there and simmer and stew. And then it was brought to my attention that there may be a personal bias or, some kind of beef between Austin and Gardner. And so when I asked, trying to unpack that and get to the bottom of, okay, so if they've got a personal issue with each other, what exactly is the issue, right? Because if we can't address the personal issue and work through that, it's just going to sit there and fester.
Yeah.
And so what I was told was, well, it's probably because, he told them to get in your car and drive off, boy.
Yeah.
And I was like, really?
But
where that might cause some issues.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, I get it that probably hurt Gardner's feelings, and it probably upset him, and it probably wasn't the nicest thing to say, but it's not a crime.
No, it's not a crime. But
and he didn't arrest him that day. He arrested him a couple of nights later, or a week later, 1 week later.
Well, here's the thing with that. What I brought up was like, hey, if that did cause some animosity, I'm like, that has it for Gardner especially, that carries kind of a racial connotation with what was said.
Yeah.
And then it was, you're accusing my friend of being a racist. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that what was said when it was interpreted, I mean, like, you could stand out there and call me fat ass. Is it true? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hurt my feelings? Probably not, because I've heard it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, he got caught in a moment where he had a human moment. He got caught in the feels with that one.
Yeah.
But as far as that actually being retaliation later on, I went back and I looked at all the body cam footage.
Did you watch the video where he got arrested?
I sure did. I watched the video where he got arrested. I watched the body cam footage with, it had all the in-car recordings and everything else with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually used your video quite a bit. I lined everything up, right? Like I had the body cam video going.
Yeah.
I got y'all's videos going, and I'm trying to get a full sense and a full picture, because one of the things I was told was like, well, Harvey was saying stuff and I didn't mess with Harvey. And I'm like, okay, just let me look at the body cam footage.
Yeah, because first they started with me. They told me to shut up or I was going to jail. And then that's when Austin chimed in. He said, oh, speech ain't interference.
Right. And going back and looking at it, I understand that Austin wasn't necessarily hollering at Gardner. He was hollering at that other officer that was talking to you, right?
Exactly.
And I get that. But here's why he was asked to step back. He wasn't asked to stop yelling. He wasn't asked to be quiet. He was just asked to step further back,
yeah,
so he can continue to yell and express his dissent. And that would be fine. But he was getting him further away so that it wouldn't interfere with the DWI stop. Now, I say that because Austin's volume and because of his proximity and just where he was at and how loud he was being, we couldn't hear the instructions that were being given to the guy that was receiving field sobriety, going through the field sobriety test, nor could he hear the instructions adequately from the officer that was giving him. And that's why he was asked to step back, because his volume was so loud and it was preventing communication between the officer and the citizen that was undergoing the SFSCs. And that's the whole reason he was asked to step back. And it was his refusal after that, and his continued refusal. I mean, I want to say he was giving him, I know for a fact too, it might have been 3 chances just to walk back to the pump that was behind him.
Yeah, but he was already like 20 feet away.
But he's loud enough that it's blurring it out. I mean, for
Yeah.
example, like looking at the body cam when you're talking, we can hear it over the body cam. But it's at a reasonable enough volume that it's not interfering with the investigation at all.
Okay. Well, then look.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
but
like your voice carries. Like we can clearly hear what you're saying, but we can also still hear the officer talking with the gentleman that was the driver that was performing the tests.
yeah, but I don't know how that lines up with it. So he was arrested for this municipal code, Galveston.
Right. He was arrested under the Galveston Municipal Code. And I've talked with a few of the other guys several times and mentioned that when it comes to that, that's something that needs to be taken up. If there's going to be changes with that ordinance,
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be taken up with city council and city legal.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's our governing body when it comes to municipal ordinances.
Yeah. Well, the ordinance says it's unlawful to obstruct, prevent, or interfere with, or attempt to obstruct, prevent, or interfere with a peace officer's duties. Now, I looked up the legal definitions of obstruct, prevent, or interfere, and nowhere does it say that those words mean talking or hollering. Those are physical things, like say he walked up and tried to grab him while he was doing the field. That would be obstructing or interfering or preventing. Just the fact that him talking, because talking is protected under the First Amendment. So you can't really use talking as a crime because it's already protected under the First Amendment. Or you could say he was protesting. Him standing there hollering is protesting, which is also under the First Amendment. The First Amendment says you can protest, assemble, speak, religion, and freedom of press. That's the First Amendment. So
Sure.
I don't see how you can say that his speech is what turned into a crime. And then here's the other thing, is after he arrested Austin, then he turned around and looked at me and told me to go stand behind pump 20. And I said, dude, I'm standing on a public sidewalk. And then he left me alone afterwards. So, I mean, I just, the whole thing's confusing to me. So that was my main question, is what did he do wrong so we don't make the same mistake? And you're saying...
Yeah, it came down to volume. It wasn't the content of the speech. It wasn't the fact that he was speaking. It came down to the fact that the volume was such that it was interfering with communication.
Well, don't you guys have noise ordinances or something? I mean...
Yeah, but that's completely... That'd be applying a completely different law for this specific deal. I mean, it's, again, there's exceptions in there with the noise ordinance to an extent for First Amendment activities. So I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those things. I think the issue is at the root of it all. If Austin would have scooted back to that pump, he never would have gone to jail. He could have continued to yell. I mean, he could have thrown stuff, kicked trash cans over, whatever.
Like, yeah.
But if he would have complied with moving another 10, 20 feet away, so that the volume had less time or had more time to drop off over that distance. Yeah. Like we just, everybody still would have been able to hear him.
But but Gardner never. Go ahead.
It wouldn't have been so loud that was interfering with that communication. And that's, I mean, even in our First Amendment policy, I mean, it's written that way that we have to address it once it comes to a point that it's interfering with that communication.
Well, here's why I don't agree, and I get that that's your opinion, and that's fine. You can have your own opinion, and but I don't understand is because when Gardner was telling him go stand behind pump 20, he never mentioned anything about you're being too loud, I can't hear. He just told him to move behind pump 20, and when he said no, put up crime scene tape. Then he went and arrested him, and then after he had him in handcuffs, then he said, "You're obstructing me by hollering." So I don't understand.
I get that. And he did say no, put up crime scene tape. So we're not putting up crime scene tape. We got pump 20.
Yeah.
He said I'm not going to move, and that's another thing. So this is where I would say that previous encounters would come in.
Yeah.
And I would not so much for making a determination on whether it was some kind of atypical retaliatory arrest, but more so in previous encounters with it's especially around the crime scene tape issue.
Yeah.
Austin tends to dig his feet in, which as well as I do, there's no law that says we have to put up crime scene tape. And it's also impractical to put crime scene tape up every time we stop. Yeah. And if we were to start doing that, as well as I do, that the next thing you know, there'd be a blocks worth of crime scene tape. Y'all wouldn't be anywhere near where y'all could film or hear anything, and then we'd be back to square one.
Yeah,
so,
and there's also...
I feel like the crime scene tape deal, that's a slippery slope. We start going down that.
Yeah, but there's also no law that says that if an officer says we have to back up, that we have to back up.
Well, and then that's where like the interfering would come in, is if the proximity is such that you can articulate that those things are happening, that it's either an immediate danger to the officer, which in this case clearly it was not a danger to the officer, but it was interrupting an effective communication. And so that's where, I mean, that's where, as far as like it being a good arrest, I mean, it's not an amicable arrest. It's not an arrest that anybody's happy that someone went to jail. It's an issue of, were his actions within a legally definable statute? And they were, and that's why it went that way. I think previous encounters with Austin, because he's not going to move unless you like absolutely force him to, and he's going to try to pull you into another argument, and he's going to get louder and more vociferous, which is going to escalate the situation. So it may very well be that in his mind, the fastest way to de-escalate that was like we're past the point of warnings and citations, and like we're jumping straight to arrest. And
but I mean,
he's got that ability to use that discretion in there.
Yeah, but here's my thing: he was already like 20 feet away, and concerned citizen was actually standing closer to Gardner than Austin was. And like I said a minute ago, Gardner never told him that he was being too loud or to stop talking. He just said, "Go stand behind pump 20." And then when we're talking about he was already 20 feet away, which gives the officer plenty of room to do his duties. And you have Turner versus Driver that says we're allowed to video and audio record. Now, if the officer moves us back too far, we can't pick up the video and audio well. So I mean, now you're dealing with the violation of our rights. So it is kind of a
I could see that to an extent. However, like you're saying, Brazoria County good citizen was there, right? But he also wasn't being vociferous enough that it was interfering with anything going on.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to like he could have still done it. And y'all are out there working as a team. Y'all are all working together. So
Yeah.
I get where you could try and I don't know how successful it would be in court, but say that Austin's rights to record were violated. But when you're out there operating as a team and everybody's working together, that same scene is on 4 different cameras.
Exactly.
Actually, it's on more than that because there were other people also filming.
So you're saying that what happened a week before where Austin hurt Gardner's feelings, you're saying that had a lot to do with this arrest. And I agree with you on that.
I would say insofar as or in the context of those two having previous knowledge of each other and yes.
Yeah.
But as far as it being a straight retaliatory arrest, absolutely not.
Because I feel like I was being louder and I was talking more than Austin was.
Yeah, you were talking more than Austin was, but you're not. Your volume's naturally kind of loud.
Yeah.
Fine, which is fine, and your voice carries.
Yeah.
But it wasn't at a point where it was preventing that interfering with that communication.
Yeah.
That was the bottom. At the end of the day, that was the bottom line. It was okay that you were talking.
Yeah.
It was 100%. It was 100% okay and appropriate, and I applaud that when Austin was placed in the handcuffs, everybody kind of voiced their dissent together and protested that, which is fine. But once he was in the car and it was over, everything went back to business as normal. We'll film it. We'll narrate the video. We'll continue operating. And again, that kind of goes to show, if he'd have turned around and started going after everybody that opened their mouth, I'd be it was oh man, I don't like this. Oh, you're under arrest for having an opinion. Something like that.
Yeah.
I would definitely say way out of line, that's way out of bounds. But
yeah.
in this particular case, it was the issue was the volume and the consistency of him yelling. It wasn't the content of what he was yelling. It's just he was yelling so loud, it was interrupting their ability to stop. And then you were there from the beginning, so you saw the dude on his own put his hands out the window.
Oh yeah.
And Gardner had to talk him down. That guy was super nervous. He's like, "Hey man, look, nobody's gonna hurt you. You don't have to put your hands out the window. Just I have some questions. This is."
Yeah.
And he worked really, 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 really hard to de-escalate that situation. And initially, that guy kind of relaxed a little when you were like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna record this for you." He was like, "All right, cool." You can see it in his shoulders. He kind of sighs. He's like, "Okay, there's another pair of eyes." And so I watched his body language, and then his loved one's body language, and I can tell you that once it was one thing having you out there filming, right? It wasn't as big a deal.
Yeah.
But once they were completely surrounded with cameras, it actually, you could tell it kind of raised that apprehension level a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But it was okay. Gardner worked through that, and he was able to de-escalate that. That's part of the problem too. He had to work to establish a rapport with the driver and de-escalate that situation from jump, so it didn't turn into something that it didn't go a direction that it did need to go.
Yeah,
and that was the other part of that too. When he's sitting there constantly screaming, that guy, it was freaking that dude out when Austin's all of a sudden yelling and doing all this stuff. So it's one of those. It's such a you gotta work a fine balance with everybody, because what if this is strictly hypothetical, but hypothetically, since there was enough to at least perform the SFSTs, right? Make sure that he was good to drive.
Yeah.
What if he just would have been I can't do this in this environment, hooked the dude up for PI and booked it?
Well,
you know what I mean? And now we're at a point where we've got y'all you got one guy exercising his right very vociferously, which kind of sets this other dude up for a trip to jail, and so then you're trying to fight against not being backed into a corner with what you have to do with somebody's body.
So
does that make sense?
So you're saying that because what we were doing was advising the driver of his rights. So you're saying that if we're standing there and advising him of his rights, not to take the test and that he doesn't have to answer questions, that your officer may arrest him for practicing his rights. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that the officer would arrest him for practicing his rights. What I'm saying is,
For listening to us, though.
No, not even just for listening. What I'm saying is this: if we're at a point where I'm going to conduct standardized field sobriety testing, right? It's because, like, for whatever, like, between the probable cause or PC for the traffic stop or whatever, whatever led to that, plus, odor of an alcoholic beverage, emitting from on or about your person,
Yeah.
smelling on your breath, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you're operating a vehicle. Clearly, you're having some trouble staying within the, confines of the traffic law, and you're under the influence of alcohol, and you're in public, and you could very much articulate, especially with the amount of DWI wrecks and intoxication, assault, and manslaughters we have on this island, that you're a danger to yourself or others. So what I'm saying is, at that point, you're pushing the elements of the offense for PI. If I conduct those SFSTs,
Yeah.
and you pass, then you're not legally intoxicated as far as driving is concerned,
Yeah.
and we're okay to let you go. So my point is this, especially in that particular case.
And that guy did an amazing job on those field sobriety tests.
Look, he did better. I mean, he did better than I could have
Yeah.
demonstrated.
He did very well.
He did great. And so I look at that and I'm like, cool. Not only did we make sure he was safe to drive, but we did end up putting the guy in jail for a Class C misdemeanor in the interest of the public because we got derailed.
But this is you're giving a hypothetical. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it could happen. I mean, I've
Yeah. Hey, and if earthworms had machine guns, birds wouldn't fuck with them.
That's true. If the dog hadn't stopped the shit, we'd be having rabbits.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it just the reality of that scenario is that has happened in the past before, where people that are obviously intoxicated get pulled over, refuse to take the test, and then sometimes it's PI. If and I'm not saying that's right, but it is. They have met the elements of the offense, and it's a lesser offense than DWI, and sometimes they're arrested for that. Yeah, depending on what's going on environmentally.
Well, look, I appreciate you talking to me and giving me your opinion. I told you before you answered the phone that I would let you speak. I wouldn't interrupt you, and I'd let you say what you had to say and everything. And I think I've done that. Yeah. I've got one more question I wanted to ask you, and that was, okay, you remember the last time me and you talked?
Yes.
Okay, and remember I asked you if you'd received any negative blowback about calling and ordering my release?
Yes.
Has that, and you said no, you haven't. Has that still, is the answer still the same, or has things changed?
Oh, yeah. 100% answer's still the same.
Nobody, you still haven't had any negative blowback?
Pocket is still missing to this day.
Gainer's pocket's still missing.
There hasn't been. It actually, I'll tell you, specifically that incident really helped open up, sit everybody down and kind of wake some guys up and be like, hey, dude, you need to make sure if you're going to arrest somebody that you're right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was one of those things. I mean, it was, everybody looked at it as we used it as a teachable moment. Everybody took away from that. And, so far things have been pretty good.
Yeah.
And there have been several times where it could be articulated that, there was interference on a municipal level.
Yeah.
And these guys have backed off from using that as like a go-to.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, as a matter of fact, I want to say Austin the other night is probably the first time an auditor's been arrested since Caldwell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from stepping out when that shift's working and it being an almost certain trip to jail to, I mean, where we're at now. I mean, it's ideally, look, I don't like taking people to jail, man.
Yeah.
Jail sucks. It smells like feet and bologna sandwiches. and depression. Like I despise walk. I get chills every time I walk through that door. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So as such, I try to reserve that for when I like really have to do it.
Yeah.
My whole theory on tickets. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I don't.
Yeah, you
like,
told me when we started the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not ticket happy, man. Like I'm a warning kind of a guy. Unless the warning won't work, you have to do a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well,
and especially in this economy, dude. Like tickets are expensive.
Oh yeah. Well, the reason I asked you, man, if anything has changed since the last conversation, and if you've received any negative blowback, is because the last time we talked about how speech cannot be interference, and now it seems like you've changed your tone on that. In Fort Worth, they're trained that if we talk and distract them, that's interference, and it's in the interference penal code, subsection D. It clearly states that that speech is not interference. So I mean, it doesn't matter. And in the city of Houston versus Hill, that's a Supreme Court ruling that a guy in Houston, he was like verbally abusing police officers, and they arrested him for it. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that abusive speech towards police officers is protected under the First Amendment. So it doesn't matter what any of these guys say to these, unless they're threatening them. Now, if they're threatening them, then that's a crime. But anything other than a threat, it's free speech. You know, if it hurts their feelings or if it distracts them, it's not interference. Interference is a physical activity. So,
correct.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not changing. It's speech alone is not interference. So your speech plus that volume and preventing that communication in this particular case was. I mean, there's no. It'd be different if he just showed up and was like, I think this is total BS that y'all are harassing this guy, and then all of a sudden, like, he's in cuffs and goes. Like, in that case, that would be an instance where it was speech alone. Does that make sense? I mean, like I said, if the volume hadn't been there,
yeah.
Like the whole thing is it prevented the communication. Had that not have prevented communication between the driver and the officer, it never would have been an issue. And then the way he tried to resolve that quickly was just increasing the distance between Austin and the stop. That was it.
Well, I mean, that's your opinion, man, and you know that you're allowed to have your opinion. But I mean, I think it's a stretch because basically you're saying his First Amendment interfered with Officer Gardner. And, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, everybody seems to think it was retaliatory for what happened the week before. And you kind of touched on that a little bit, even though you're not admitting that it was a retaliatory arrest. But you kind of touched on it a little bit. So, I mean, you know, but, you know, we'll see what the courts say. I guess this is where it's going because I don't see you guys dropping this. Or am I reading this wrong? Is there a chance this is going to get dropped or what?
I think this one's probably going to end up going to court. Yeah. More than likely. I mean, there's not a.
I think you guys are giving him a lawsuit on a silver platter. I mean, whether it's dropped or not, he's still going to get a lawsuit out of it.
Yeah, well, and look, dude, if he wants to go that route, then I mean, I don't know what the filing fee is, but
so
it's the federal court's over on 25th Street. I mean, if he feels that his rights have been violated, I mean, he certainly will within his rights to fire that off.
Well, let me ask you this, Lieutenant Mia. So when we're out there and we're filming and we're using our First Amendment, or say we're protesting, or we're telling the driver what his rights are, how do we know if we're being too loud or not? I mean, how did Gardner come to the conclusion? Does he have a decibel reader in his pocket? I mean, I'm really confused, man. I don't want to make the same mistake. I don't want to get arrested. So I'm trying to figure out how this does not happen again.
I would say as long as it's not interfering with his ability to hear the driver and the driver's ability to hear the officer, I think you'd be fine.
Yeah.
And then, and again, that's what it came down to was that the frequency and volume of the speech interfered with that communication.
How come Gardner never mentioned that until after the arrest? He never mentioned it was too loud that he couldn't hear.
Well, that'd be a good question for him.
Yeah.
But I could speculate on that if you like. But
no. I mean, that's just part of my point. I don't want to have an hour-long conversation with you, and I appreciate I think you've stated, you know, your side and your opinion, and I think I've given you mine. We might not agree, but you know, I don't want to argue with you or cut you off, and
No,
you know, I wanted you to be able to.
That's the beauty of America, brother.
Exactly, exactly. But I think I've asked you all of the questions that I wanted to ask you. Do you have anything that you want to add before I end the conversation?
Yeah, I noticed y'all had reflective shirts, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That was. I mean, I know one of the other guys and I had actually talked about that as far as like trying to help ease some safety concerns for the officers. So, you know, visually, it's like, okay, cool. I know there's some auditors. There's a blue shirt, a green shirt, and just kind of it really helps. And I think as far as like immediately identifying like who's there and what y'all are doing, and then from a safety factor too, you don't get tagged out by some clown on a dark sidewalk.
Yeah,
riding a scooter or something. So I mean, we really do appreciate that. And,
all right,
thank you.
All right, no problem. Yeah, that's me. I've been, because I worked construction my whole life, so I have a lot of those high visibility shirts. So
yeah,
that's definitely me that you're seeing. So
yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. I wasn't doing it purposely, but I mean, if it helps, and I kind of was, because you know it's dark and it helps people see. And yeah.
Well, I brought that up with Gallup Island Transparency, and was like, look, man, you know, when I-45 News first started, his camera guy was getting hemmed up left and right because, you know, all of a sudden, like, there's somebody, like, walking up, you know, like, hey, man, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But once it got to that point, because, I mean, they were, like, right on top of stuff as attacked. Kind of like y'all are, but they were a little, you know, they were just, I don't know, they were just a little quicker on the gas pedal, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how they were driving to get there, but they got there.
All right.
Once TJ hooked those dudes up with like little vests that said I-45 News, it was no different than like Channel 13 being up there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't necessarily have to be that way, but it's just how brains work.
I got you, man. Well, we'll keep that in mind, and I'll tell the other guys, man.
I appreciate it. Harvey, you have a great day.
All right.
If you need anything, just give me a holler.
All right. Thanks, Captain Miguez. We'll talk to you later. I appreciate the phone conversation.
No problem.
All right,
Thank you.
man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.